Hi, we just finished gathering with thousands of Canadians from across the country for a historic political convention of the Conservative Party of Canada. It was in Calgary, and actually, this time yesterday, as of the recording time of this video I'm doing right now, final votes were actually just being cast and counted. And what a weekend it was. I was so happy to see so many friends from across the nation in the room. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to try to go over as concisely as possible the wins from the weekend, some of the hard losses, how those wins and losses happened exactly, what they mean, some of the key reflections that I'm currently having. And this honestly may be one of the most important videos that I have ever made. If you are a person of faith in Canada, please watch all the way through. Even if you are a separatist, I want to say, because the principles will still apply. So thank you. I want to give a brief disclaimer and also say that I'm still very much processing as the convention literally just ended. And I'm also still hearing back from other brilliant minds that I respect who are processing their perspectives from the ground as well. And some of those people are still flying home. Additionally, some of the data is still yet to be released. So there might be a few of my thoughts that will be a little raw, maybe roughly rounded, and may take further shape in the days ahead. I'm not sure, based on the data that we see. Firstly, in terms of the wins, there was so much that happened at this convention that Canadians, really from across the board would be very appreciative of. Policies were passed that protect faith-based charities, for example, strengthening the nomination processes so that it's harder for really good candidates to be disqualified for no good reason, protecting property rights, protecting gun rights, and protecting professionals from compelled speech. This was named the Jordan Peterson policy, and a policy was also passed to protect the right to use cash, even if our society transitions into a digital cash base. There was a policy in favor of reducing public funding for state-run media and encouraging the CBC to develop a market model that would enable it to sustain itself, just like CTV and other independent media sources do. There were also many other fiscally conservative policies that would support hardworking Canadians and our resource sectors. Much of this was honestly expected, as several of the items I just mentioned are really bread and butter issues for the current conservative political movement and also for people across party lines that resonate with these values. So where the debate really became more concentrated was around social issues. But before I get into that, I want to share some additional good news observations that I personally saw. I've attended almost half a dozen conventions now, and I have never seen leaders of faith-based, socially conservative organizations from across denominational expressions like Catholics, charismatics of various traditions, traditional evangelicals, and Reformed Canadians. They were affectionately united at this convention. Leaders were deferring to one another's strengths, walking together, promoting one another's resources, and truly streamlining communications to avoid any double up or confusion. And it was truly beautiful to witness the John 17 unity for the things that matter, like life and family, as we are all taught to do justly and walk humbly together. I also met many delegates who said that this was their very first convention, and I loved hearing that. It actually filled my heart every time. Some came at great personal sacrifice, and they deserve honor for that. They were learning as they went, and they're the unsung heroes of Canada, in my viewpoint. Some faith-based parents brought their teenagers for the first time, and what a life-changing experience that was for them. And true confessions, my own daughter, who's 11, she's too young to vote. She was even chomping at the bit to come and vote for babies. We have a younger generation that is becoming far more engaged in the issues that matter, and that's really worth celebrating and supporting. As many of you already know, there were several social policies related to abortion, medical assistance in dying, and even parental rights that were voted down because they did not receive a majority or a double majority vote, either in the preliminary voting sessions or in the final votes, though many wonderful conservatives who attended did support them. Even the policies that lost by the largest margins still only lost by dozens of votes, not hundreds, not thousands. and I will explain what I mean by that. Losses included the defeat of a policy that would have repealed another policy stating that a conservative government would not support any legislation at all to regulate abortion. The bill's sponsor spoke in favor of this policy from the microphone, as did I, along with Alyssa Globe, who recently revealed through investigative reporting that full trimester abortions are indeed happening in Canada at taxpayer expense. This policy failed in the semifinals by an estimated 76 votes out of approximately 538 people who were in the room. Just prior to the vote, the room filled with delegates who had not been present for previous votes and came in specifically for that moment to vote this policy down. Another policy stating that people requiring disability supports, home care, or palliative care should not be offered medical assistance in dying instead of critical service was defeated in the semifinals. A policy affirming the right of institutions not to participate in abortion or medical assistance in dying was voted down. A policy brought forward from Dr. Leslyn Lewis's writing to expand supports for women choosing to keep their babies, for women harmed by abortion, and to require transparent abortion data from institutions providing abortions also failed. A policy from Lethbridge, Alberta, stating that a child born alive after a failed abortion should receive timely medical care initially passed, but was not ranked high enough in the end to advance to the final round. In one of the most dramatic debates of the convention, a policy protecting a parent's role and allowing them to encourage their child not to take gender-altering drugs or undergo irreversible gender-altering surgeries passed the semifinals and advanced to the main floor. Currently in Canada, because of Bill C-4, which has already passed, any counseling, including prayer counseling, that does not affirm a person's desire for gender-altering medical interventions is considered a criminal offense. In the end, the policy was defeated by a very slim margin. Based on available data, it appears that an estimated 5 to 20 additional votes from either Manitoba or Nova Scotia would have resulted in its passage, affirming that a conservative government would protect the parent-child relationship in Canada if elected. Much of this is understandably discouraging and even perplexing. Our inbox is already filling with messages from Canadians, loving Canadians, asking what happened, how could this have happened, and what does it mean? I'd like to offer maybe a few thoughts that might be helpful, though I also want to give the disclaimer that they are not exhaustive. There's more that could be said. Firstly, remember how small the margins were. Every policy I mentioned would have passed if somewhere between 5 and an estimated 76 on the high end people had just voted differently. These are very small numbers. Second, even if no one on the no side had changed their vote to yes, we estimate that approximately 150 additional voting delegates on the socially conservative side would have changed every outcome just named. The precise number is still being refined, but it's close to this. It's also important to note that there were empty chairs in every room and unfilled delegate voting spots. So this indicated that there really was space for additional people to come from across Canada and participate. Secondly, I want to address something gently here. Politics is often said to be downstream from culture, and while this can be true and often is, it is not always perfect math. For example, when parental rights debates surfaced nationally around 2023, multiple provincial and even national surveys confirmed that parents overwhelmingly opposed being removed from decision-making moments in their children's life when it came to gender issues, every poll being above 70% and some even more. Cultural consensus existed on this, but it did not translate into a policy outcome at yesterday's convention because those who were there as voting delegates, those who paid the cost, showed up, were in the room, lifted their cards, determined the result. The same could really be said of third trimester abortion or gender side as well. Surveys show that when Canadians learn that abortions can occur up until birth at taxpayer expense, and this does in fact happen, most respond with disbelief, including many who identify as pro-choice. Canadians also overwhelmingly oppose sex-selective abortion, so the abortion of a girl or a boy just because of their gender. In spite of this cultural consensus, the policy failed, again demonstrating that politics is not always downstream from culture. Sometimes it's determined solely by who's in the room and holding a voting card like this one. Many in the room voted against the pro-life policy, stating that the Liberals would use it to beat up the Conservatives in the next election. Others pointed out that whether or not these policies pass, that this is the basic Liberal playbook and they're going to call Pierre Poilievre far right anyway. So you might as well be on the right side of history and not discourage your base, was another counterpoint. You might as well be on the right side of history. Regardless, voters cast their votes in accordance with their conviction in the moment, and these policies lost by a very slim number of Canadians, the size of a small church, really. It's also important to note that this was not Pierre Poilievre's decision, his front bench's decision, or even the caucuses. This was delegates, everyday Canadians who were voting, those who were in the room physically from ridings nationwide who put up this little green card at those moments. Many of you watching this are now likely thinking, well, I didn't even know there was a convention. I didn't even know I could be a voting delegate. I didn't know that there were empty seats or even open spots. And if I had known, I definitely would have been there. Precisely. And that's probably, honestly, the most important takeaway from the last 72 hours. I'll confess that this was once me. In 2018, I didn't show up when the exact same vote was occurring and lost by 52 votes. I even scheduled a conference on the exact same weekend because I didn't even know that there was a Conservative convention or a life vote happening. Worse, I may have unintentionally prevented others from attending as well. When I realized this years later, I was honestly gutted, and I resolved that as a fake leader, I would never again knowingly compete with a historic political moment when lives were on the line. Instead, I would partner with it. You know, none of us bats 100% all the time, but our awareness can grow. Over the Peace Tower, there's a scripture, and it reads this: "My people perish for lack of knowledge," from Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. Now, this is both an encouragement and a warning. Political illiteracy truly is dangerous, which is why organizations such as For My Canada, Right Now, Campaign Life Coalition, ARPA, the National Leadership Briefing with Doug Sharp, Action for Canada, and many others exist. Many good-willed Canadians like you want to show up in moments that matter, but you're busy and you're focused elsewhere, which is legitimate and completely understandable, but must be balanced with the urgency of these moments. I believe that politics is like the weather. Most people are not meteorologists, but they're wise citizens who listen to those who understand the forecast and act when storms are coming. There are these very real moments, like when a hurricane hits the coast of Eastern Canada, when if we don't show up in that moment with sandbags and put sand in it and everybody gets involved and everybody pays a price of effort in that moment, goes buy some more sandbags. If we don't show up and barricade our properties, what will happen is that hurricane, that storm, those waters will rise, it'll mow in, and we'll, because of the damage of the weather system, end up having to repair our house for years to come. So we listen to the weather people, we listen to those trusted voices, and we take action even if we don't understand weather and how it works. This is politics, and not everyone is called to focus on politics every day, but some are called to that intersection of culture and policy. And when credible citizen action groups who have a track record raise the alarm, wisdom says, listen and respond. This last weekend was a moment where the landscape changed. There are other moments where the landscapes have changed. We need to give a high five to our network and all of you who made all of the phone calls just a week or two ago regarding C9 and actually caused that hate speech legislation to be put on pause. Our absence is powerful, but so is our presence. Let's treasure this wisdom in our hearts. So as we reflect on this weekend, we must celebrate the significant wins achieved, while also being honest about the ones that slip through our fingers by the narrowest of margins. And this isn't about blame. It's about learning. It's about leaning in. It's about growing. I ask myself often how I can communicate more clearly, be a better weather woman for moments like this when 10 to 150 additional people in a room hearing that call can make the difference. We show up with love and with power. And I'll never forget the time that David Maines shared with me in tears how a bill that could have saved millions of unborn babies' lives failed because of one empty chair in the Senate in the late 80s. Prayer is a starting point, but it's never the ending point. Jesus prayed in Gethsemane, but then he rose and entered into the public square, bloodied, beaten, persecuted, misunderstood, standing and paying a price for those who weren't even born yet. I want to honor the citizen action groups, many of which I've named in this video, who really gave leadership in this moment. I want to honor the delegates who sacrificed to attend, for those who prayed and fasted and held those prayer meetings, and for those who've taken the time to watch this entire video. You know, this moment required a genuine debrief for people of faith who care about children, the unborn, and born. So thank you for showing up, and thank you to those of you who commit to being in the chair next time. You are the delta, you're the difference. You are the ones that can bring the tipping point that our nation so desperately needs. And if this loss awakens us, it may just be the gift that we need right now. You don't need to be involved in politics every day, but when moments that matter are right before us, let's come together to make history. The next moment won't likely be a convention. It'll likely be an election or a critical bill, just as we saw with Bill C-9, when thousands of Canadians made those calls, 48,000 phone calls. Thank you so much for that. More opportunities will come. And if you're not already on our email list and you're saying, I want to be a part of this, please visit formycanada.com and get on that email list today. When our communications increase, it's because we're those weather people sounding the alarm that a hurricane is on the horizon. And when the weather is calm and there's nothing to worry about, you just won't hear from us nearly as much. The good news is that we're getting wiser, more unified, more coordinated, more engaged every day, and that is powerful. As Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 reminds us, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. I love you, Canada. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go spend some time with my family now. So if you comment or email or message us and we don't respond immediately, just know that I'm resting and replenishing, and we will get back to you as soon as we can, I promise. But if you want to support our work so that we can continue to grow and be more effective, I just want to say that your faithful partnership, your monthly support is game changer. It enables us to hire staff to be in this quarterback position as the weathermen and women in Canada so that we can serve at the faith policy intersection in meaningful mobilization moments that are so critical. I want to be transparent and make sure you know that gifts are not receivable, not charitable, but the rewards are eternal. They're out of this world. So God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Be a voice in your own sphere of influence for the issues that matter most. And let us remember, the nation goes to those who show up. Let's start in the place of prayer, but let's remember the public square.